Hi, everyone. This is Marisa B. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. Today, I am thrilled because I have Pia Louise Capaldi. She is a performance artist, but she's so much more. She's an intuitive spiritual guide. She is a sheep doula, which I love. She is a tiny home liver. She has studied the Andean Caro tradition of shamanic energy medicine. Hi, Pia. Welcome today. Thank you for
Hi.
coming.
Hi, nice to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started on this journey? I mean, performance artist first and foremost. So how did this all start? And then how did things evolve?
Well, I started as pretty much a child kind of in nature. I've always really connected with like the natural rhythms, growing up in Maine of just being in the wilderness and connecting with animals. And I was kind of like a little Mowgli child from the Jungle Book.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was really kind of just in tune with everything. And I was always really into art. I was always into self-expression. That was something that was very nurtured by my parents. And I've always, everything that I've done, I've wanted to make things a little bit more beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, so I got into belly dance actually through trauma, believe it or not.
Mhm.
So I'm a belly dance artist. But I was introduced to it through from a traumatic time in my life, and it really changed the way that I existed
Mhm.
really. So I was a musician for first and foremost for most of my life, and then I ended up being gifted a dance class, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. No way. And I was just not into it. And like, I would literally go to like, school dances with like my arms
Yeah.
crossed. I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And there was something very freeing that like
Mhm.
the first class, I was just like, oh, there's something here in my body that it just opened up.
Mhm.
Um, and and that actually developed my spirituality as I kind of I work a lot with the physical body being a medium.
Mhm.
So basically feeling your full body yes, feeling your full body no, and feeling basically your direction in life based on what your body is saying in the moment. And that's really kind of how I connect with everything, and I try to help other people connect with that as well, because um, being able to know what you're drawn to like authentically, that makes the difference in whether or not you reach your full capacity and your happiness in your life. And so opening that and learning about that is like the biggest like goal for me, like working with other people and with dance as well.
And you said, of course, it's freeing, which it so is. I mean, I use belly dance for clients that I have as well. It's freeing, it's expressive, it's a way that they feel their body. And I know that you've added a lot of shamanic dance in your work as well, correct? You use that as well in your work.
Yeah, one of the things that I love doing is that so connecting with spirit guides, and it's interesting. So I was taught how to do shamanic journeying when I was like 13 years old, like it's a 13-year-old kid, and I was like, I'm seeing stuff, and I'm seeing these like and I remember sitting down with a friend of mine, an older friend of mine who was a is a shamanic practitioner. And she was like, you need to sit with that, and you need to like, who are these beings that are talking to you? And so I'm like, oh, I never thought of sitting and asking questions. And so through shamanic journey, it's like a deep meditation, and usually people are laying down and they're closing their eyes and they're going, you know they're basically going downward with like I ask questions like, what guides want to communicate with me right now. And I'm very visual, so
Mhm.
I'll see different people, and I'll see, I'll literally see words, and I'll see different things. Um and it's interesting. So one of the things that I like to do is to bring those messages from kind of sight in your mind to your physical body. So I'll actually ask like, okay, what's the energy of the guide that you're connecting with? And allow that energy to be in your body, and how would you hold your body differently? what is this message that's coming through in your physical body? So I've had people that, are, their shoulders are caved in, and they're very meek, and they're feeling like, like a, self-worth issues and things, where they're just like, oh, they don't want to take up space. And then like they'll connect in like a meditation with like this, like the spirit of like a bear, you know what I mean? And they'll come out, and it's amazing because a lot of times with people, like their eyes will be closed when I'm kind of guiding them. And, so they're not worried about people seeing them, and they're like, all right, and they can truly kind of express and connect with how their body's feeling. And you'll see their posture move from something that's like shrunken to like, like this really like opening.
Yeah, change completely. Yes.
Yeah. So it's really fascinating to bring kind of that shamanic journey of just like seeing and, connecting with guides, and bringing that into your physical body. So it allows people to move differently kind of in the world with that sort of teaching. And it's really amazing. And I've seen a lot of just, people just like, oh, I didn't even know I had that in me, and I've been afraid to like, take up space, or, it's really fascinating.
Oh, it is. It is. And so I loved when I heard that you did, like, you incorporated that shamanic dancing into your, original work that you do with dance. But of course you do so much more, because you use energy medicine. You've studied. Can you explain a little bit? I know a little bit about it. It's from the Andean tradition, and it's called Karo, correct? And so can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when I studied with the Caro, I had an incredible teacher. It was interesting. There were two guides, and this one guide was like, okay, so they had students, and they said, okay, you have to learn everything in Quechua, like the language of Quechua, and you have to say it just like this and this when you're talking to the ancestors. And my guide was so interesting, because my guide was like, it's not about the words that you're saying. If you don't know the language, then it's not going to be authentic energy to you. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, it was really incredible. And I take that more or less that approach with the people that I sit with, because I think people get so focused on like, okay, this is the tradition, and it has to be like, I have to get these words right, and they have to be spoken. It's like, you have to, connect with the earth, with Pachamama, in whatever visuals, whatever words come to you. It can, if it's not your language, then it's not your language. So I studied the Caro tradition. And one of the things that I really took from that, and it really kind of influences the way that I work with people, and the way that I really see the world, actually, is the fact that they don't believe in something that's good or bad. And the first time I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, it just resonated with me. So we've connected this energy of like something that's good and something that's bad. And that's like the, duality. And so our brains say, okay, now everything is put into two categories. You have this thing, it's either good or bad. And that, we connect so much to those two words that like, that will dictate how we see ourselves. If something is bad and we associate it with bad, in action we associate with bad, like in an outcome of something that we're connected with that's associated with bad. And people come in to sit with me, and they're like, well, this is so bad. I'm like, okay, what happens if you take that away and you don't associate it with good or bad? What is it? Well, the Caro taught that there's not good or bad, but there's light and there's heavy. That's it. If something is heavy, it's okay. It's heavy. And it takes something out of it, where like, again, in our language, we're like, oh, bad. And it connects so much with our brains and what we're thinking and how we feel about ourselves and other people. And, have we failed or what? It's like, nope, that's all gone. Is it heavy? Okay.
Isn't it like, I guess, good and bad are judgments, right?
Yeah.
Judgments. But I guess if you're saying light and heavy, those are feelings.
Yes.
So
yeah.
It's different, right?
Yeah. And that was one of the most beautiful things that I learned, because it's like, again, like the when learning from this tradition, there wasn't this like over analyzing of everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, okay, this is heavy, this is light. They're, you know, there's no judgment around it.
Right.
You
Right.
just see it for what it is. And you're like, okay, I'm going to make a different choice next time if I don't like the way this feels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
yeah, and it's really, really beautiful. And that was the biggest thing I've taken from that, where I was like, oh God, that resonates. I've actually studied a lot of different traditions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that my teacher really encouraged with me is, again, the things that resonate are the things that are yours.
Mm-hmm.
Things that don't resonate, they're not yours.
Yeah, it's so true, right?
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something that's I don't see myself as being, I don't know. I do see myself as being like a true spiritualist, because I don't ever say like, oh, I figured it out, because I haven't. Like, I'm always going to have an open mind about everything, no matter what. Like, I'll walk through my life and say, oh, that resonates. Oh, that doesn't. Okay, I'm going to remember this one.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's with every tradition that I've been interested in. There are things that resonate and things that don't. And that's your patchwork of your belief system. And I really like being completely open to that. So, yeah.
Well, that's the way it should be, right? You select what, not that there's anything wrong with anything else, with other traditions, but it's what resonates with you.
Exactly.
That's how you move forward in life.
Exactly.
And now I know that prior to the pandemic, unfortunately, we're still talking about that, but I think life is always going to be like that, with that as the dividing line. But prior to that, you were very busy. You traveled all over because you did performance art everywhere. How did it change? Because now you're working in a different capacity to some extent, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it was actually even so before even the pandemic, I feel like I experienced the pandemic almost. It's funny. So I got I know I spoke to you before about it, but I had a really debilitating case of Lyme disease, and that it was so bizarre. So I tend to experience things like maybe a year or so before everybody else does. And you know, it was so bizarre. So it was a year before the pandemic, and I got very, 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 very sick. And it turns out like it was basically I was misdiagnosed for 3 years with three Lyme, Babesia, and Bartonella. So three tick-borne.
So you had, right, 3 different types.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was interesting because my life basically shut down when that happened. So it was a year before the pandemic. And so I was bedridden for a year and a half. And it's funny, then the pandemic hit, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to be in isolation. And I'm like, man, I've been doing this for a year.
Yeah.
I'm like, it'll be okay, everybody. If I survive this, everybody's gonna be okay. But so it's interesting. So it was pretty much a year before the pandemic. Yeah, I basically had to give up on dance. I had to give up on everything. My whole ego died. Everything that I thought about myself as a performer, it was me in a bed, and that was it. Couldn't perform. I couldn't do anything. And that really changed the trajectory of my life. It's funny, I can't even say COVID changed it, because it was really the line.
It happened before.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it made me let go of a lot of things that I thought I was like, oh yeah, I'm a dancer, I'm a this. It's like, nope, you're a person, you're you. And that's it. You like to dance, that will happen again. You like to sit with people, that will happen again. It's not happening right now, and that's okay. So one of the things that it did too, with how I operated before, is that all of the things that I was compromising on, like, oh, maybe I kind of like this, but I feel kind of a drag when I do it. But it basically said, but my body is now like, nope, this don't feel good. You're not going to do this now. And it's funny, like even now, I don't have tolerance for things that I don't 100% want to do. My body just says no. It says, nope, no, you don't want to do this. And so it's interesting now. I'm really conscious about like this brings light into my life, and I really enjoy this. Like dance brings light into my life. Sitting with people brings light into my life. Animals bring light into my life. Painting brings light into my life. Anything that doesn't, I physically feel it. My body says no, like it's just nope, you don't want to do it. And I feel it in my solar plexus, I feel it in my shoulders, I feel my whole body do something very different that's like restriction. And it says, no, you might think that you want to do this, your whole body is saying, no, not really. Because, and that's the thing that I find, humans are, they have a hard time doing is their brain says, yes, I should do this, but they're not really understanding that their whole rest of their selves are saying no. And they don't listen to their bodies. They don't listen to their posture. They don't listen to all of that. And, I got a very serious, look into that by going through Lyme disease. But that was more or less my teaching from that, is to kind of guide people back towards what is your body saying in every moment,
Yeah, because it takes some of us a lifetime to learn that lesson. You've
Yeah.
learned it so young, I mean, I know it's terrible that you had Lyme disease, but in a way, you're so lucky that you've learned that so young, where it's taking some of us many moons to learn how to do that, to understand that only these things resonate with us, only these things are what we should be doing and want to do, and that we connect with. And the other things that we push ourselves to do, or maybe feel obligated to do, that doesn't necessarily work.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because it's fascinating. And I've actually talked to a lot of other people who have gone through the same kind of Lyme experience that I've gone through. And it's funny, for me, it's not even I don't even get the physical symptoms, it's all neurological symptoms. So I was getting seizures, I was getting really, really, really rough stuff. I would get shakes, like Parkinson shakes, really bad.
I could only imagine the three you had. You were infected with the three different types.
Yeah.
And it took so long to properly diagnose.
Yeah.
It was raging in your system.
Oh, it's yeah. But the difference, I want to say that I still have all three of them.
Yes. Of course, because don't they say they stay with you, really?
Yeah.
Right? Don't they stay in there?
But I will say the thing, I've had talked to so many people. I still have people email me from across the country being like, what did you do, that are in the throes of the Lyme disease struggle, and they're like, what did you do? They'll send me messages being like, I'm at the end of my rope, I don't know, how did you do it, what was the combination of stuff that you took, and I said, every time it's hard, because I'm like, I gave up on medicine, all of it. I gave up on antibiotics, I gave up on herbalism, gave up on everything. And the only thing that cured me, and I don't want to say cured, but the only thing that got me into a place where my body stabilized was picking only the things that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Really. That was the thing that helped me. So anything else that I'm like, oh, I feel obligated, no, I'm not doing it. And because of that, I feel like your cortisol levels go down. And I feel like your overall stress goes down. I live on a farm, which I love.
That's what I was going to say, because I love that. It's sheep doula. It's incredible. What a job that is. Can you explain about that? I mean, I know that actually makes you glow, right? That's it does. Makes you glow because you really are an animal person. You're connected to animals. Yeah.
So I got into that. So even before getting involved with being a farmer, basically, I started building a tiny house, and I saw one and I was like, this is what I want. This is what I want to have. This is what I want to live in. I've always been a minimalist kind of my entire life. And I was just like, this is what I want. And
you built it yourself with a friend, right?
Yes.
No plans. You just built it yourself. Right? So you're one of the tiny home dwellers.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. And, and it was a really crazy project. So I was sick when I was building it. And my friend actually, he was recovering from a really bad car accident at the time. And it was this kismet, all right, we're gonna cure ourselves by doing this. And it was so beautiful and so magical. And we would just show up every day, and we would just have a blast, and we just build as much as we could. And it was really, really, really magical. And so when my house was finished, I was like, I don't have a plan.
How
Like
long
I
did
didn't,
it take you? How long did it take you to finish your home?
it took me a lot longer than I wanted to.
Mhm.
So it was probably like 2 years maybe.
Mhm. And
Um,
while you were sick as well.
I was
Okay,
sick,
so.
yeah. Um, and so yeah, so we finished it, and I was like, I have no idea where I'm going to be putting this house. I didn't, I just was like, I'm being guided. This is what is
Mhm.
going to happen. This house is going to be created. Where am I going to put this thing? And it was actually somebody that I met at the Lyme Clinic who was really, really suffering. So I said before, like I got a lot of the neurological
Mhm.
symptoms. This woman actually got the physical symptoms, and
Mhm.
she literally like couldn't bend over. She was really
Mhm.
having a hard time. And I had met her at the Lyme Clinic, and I struck up a conversation with her, and she says, I have horses. She said, I have a lot of horses. And she
Mhm.
says, I'm so sad because my doctor is basically telling me that I need to get rid of them.
Oh my gosh.
And
Okay.
I was like, that's terrible.
Yes.
And I said, I'm an animal person. I totally understand. And she said, yeah, I don't know I'm going to do. And I was like, well, I have a movable house. Neurologically, I'm in trouble, but like my physical body's fine. And she's like, all right. And so I ended up moving my house there. I learned all about horses, and I took care of all these horses by myself. And it was like, I was so sick looking. Like I was like, my house wasn't completely done. So I was
Mhm.
working on my house, and I was just like, just a mess. I was white, just super white. And I looked really sick. And I was like, I'm not taking any meds. I'm going to sit with these horses, and this is what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
And at first it was a struggle, but I loved every moment of it. Um, and that really is what got me better.
Mhm.
And from there, I stayed for maybe, I think it was like three months. I was taking care of these horses. And then I was connected with the farm that I'm on now. And again, this woman, who's incredible, she was 70, well, now she's 75, but she's basically ran this farm, the sheep farm, all by herself. And she was like, I would love some help. And I'm like, I would totally love to help you. So I care for, let's see, about 30 sheep. They're Scottish Highland sheep, and they're
Oh, lovely.
amazing. Yeah, they all have like really, really big
Yes.
horn.
Yes.
Yeah, they're absolutely
Yeah,
incredible.
they're
And
beautiful.
yeah, so we have horses, but it's mostly sheep.
Mhm.
And that was it's and so while by pandemic like just started happening, and everybody was panicking, and I'm like coming out of like, I'm like, I was just in a bed for 2 years, and I come out, and there's just like these lambs being born. I'm like, this is the best time of my life. Like it was just incredible, so, but it was incredible. And so yeah, I got into sheep dueling, and I know every one of these sheep, and they're incredible, and they're really smart. They have a depth to them that I had no idea about. I raise them from when they're born to when they give birth and when they pass on, and it's like I'm a part of every part of their life.
So you're at their birth. You're at the birth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're in the birthing room, more or less. When
My whole arm is in the birth.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. To help, right? To help
Yeah.
bring it
Yeah.
into the world. That's
Yeah.
really special. How many people do that?
Yeah.
That's a
It,
special job.
it's incredible, and it makes you look at the world very, very differently. um because in a way, like you're so close to like birth and death in the life cycle, that it's like,
Mhm.
it just simplifies everything down, and you're like, wow, we're looking at things way too complicated.
Mhm.
And it's like watching these animals, and it's like it's so meditative, because you watch them all day, and they eat, and they walk out in the same line, in the
Mhm.
same, like they literally form a path on the grass, and you'll see it's the same track that they come in and out of all day. They go out and they eat, and you can hear them munching,
Mhm.
and they come back in, and you just watch them all day. So you're just watching these sheep, and you're watching, you see like every nuance of the way that they walk. If somebody's isolating themselves, like that's what you're supposed to do when you're, a shepherdess, basically, is you
Mhm.
watch them, and their movements.
Mhm. Their
um
behaviors, right? Their behaviors, because
yeah.
they do have personalities. They do have behaviors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, very much. And it's really, really, really beautiful. And and if you have anybody, has a chance to work on a farm, do it.
Mm-hmm.
It'll change. I mean, I've studied with so many different type of spiritual teachers and so many different types of, you know, workshops
Mm-hmm.
and traditions. I will say working on a farm is probably the most, like, the biggest spiritual teaching I've ever had, really, out of everything.
Wow.
Just donating your time to that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's incredible. It's
And how many
absolutely
sheep are
incredible.
there now? How many sheep did you say are there?
We have 30 sheep, and it changes obviously around lambing season. So
Mm-hmm.
lambing is in March, like March, end of March until sometimes like the beginning of May.
Mm-hmm.
And they sometimes come all at once, and they sometimes
Mm-hmm.
come like once every week. Last year we had 22 born, 17 were born within 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're just
Wow.
everybody's going into labor, and you're like, what do we do?
Wow. So yeah, and then you're constantly busy then.
Oh
And
yeah.
are the sheep there? Are they sheared for their wool
Yep.
on the
So
farm?
they're sheared. Yeah, our sheep are sheared usually right before lambing,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can kind of see based on their appearance, like when they're going to be going into labor. So there's different physical signs that they will go into labor, like they're looking at like their boobs and everything, and like seeing like
Yes.
how they look. And a lot of times if their whole coat is still there, you can't really
Mm-hmm.
tell. And the important part of knowing if they're going into labor is that in case you have to assist.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been times where, I sleep with all my windows open. So during that time, so I can
You
hear
can
if
hear them, right?
oh yeah, you
Yeah.
can hear if they go into labor, and I'm like, and I can tell from the sound if it's a new mom
Mm-hmm.
or if it's an old mom.
Oh,
So,
wow.
oh yeah. So usually
Yeah,
a new
one with
mom.
more experience and one not
Oh,
much experience. Yeah.
it's funny because the older moms, they're just like,
Yeah.
I'll be back. Like they're just like, and you'll see them like walk out into the field with the rest of them, and they're like, I think I forgot something inside, and they'll just go inside and they'll have a baby, and you're like, you just didn't make any noise. But you'll have a new mom that's like,
Yeah.
Mom! Like you're like, what's happening? We're like, all right, we gotta go sit with the sheep now. But the old moms are just like, I'll be right back, and they're just quiet, and they'll just sneak in, and you'll have a
Yeah.
baby. Um, but there's a lot of baby stealing that happens in sheep communities.
Oh.
So that's what you have to watch out for. So the important thing again of knowing that if somebody's going into labor
Uh-huh.
is that you're watching them and you're like, okay, this one's going into labor. You have to isolate them in what's called the jug, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's like a small stall.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that you do that is that if a lot of times if they give birth and you have like another pushy mom
Mm-hmm.
who's pregnant but hasn't given birth, then that mom, the experienced mom who hasn't given birth yet, they'll
Mm-hmm.
come over and they'll actually steal the baby.
Wow.
And they'll say, this is mine. And the
Mm-hmm.
new mom who's just given birth will be like, but okay, I guess. And so they like won't know what to do. And the new mom will, or the mom that's taken the baby, when she gives birth, if you allow that to happen, if she gives birth, then
Mm-hmm.
she'll reject her baby.
Reject their own. Well, I'm happy to hear that it's not human beings stealing them, that it's the other
No,
sheep, that the sheep are stealing them. At least that's a load off my mind that
oh no, I
it's
know.
sheep stealing each other. Although it is detrimental because then if they do, like you said, then they reject their own child,
Yeah.
their own baby. So it is detrimental for the sheep, but at least you don't have to worry about human hands running on the farm and taking
Oh
it.
no, 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 not at all. Not
So
at
you're
all.
busy with that a lot. I mean, that takes up, well, I know lambing season is a certain season, but
Yeah.
you're busy taking care of the animals all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big job.
Oh yeah.
So now
Yeah.
how do you see yourself going now since are you going back to perform? Well, can you leave the farm
Oh
to
yes.
perform and
Yes,
all?
yes, yes.
Oh, I'm
Yep.
sure you've had to make a schedule now,
Mm-hmm.
a certain type of schedule. So
Yes.
so tell me how you're going to be like moving forward after the pandemic, because I'm sure more things are opening up now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I have a show I think on Halloween this year. I performed quite a few times over the summer as well. And the good thing is that obviously during lambing, which is in March, there's like basically a 2-month window.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much don't have any performances
Right.
during that time. But the rest of the year has been really great. And the good thing is that as long as you're there, like, morning and evening, that's, basically when everybody needs to be fed. And if you want, check in throughout the day, they're fine. But usually performances are at night for me anyway. So that's totally different.
But you're going to be performing closer to home, I suspect, right? Because before
Yes.
you used to travel all over.
Yes. I still do plan to do that. But there's a lot of farm help for that.
Right. So you do have help on the farm that can fill in at the time. And then, and now have you gone back to working with clients also?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And you do work with them online as well, right? You're working with people online, but you also work in person.
Yes. Yeah, I find that people, I definitely, I like working online with people. People really, really, really love to come and sit with me at the tiny house. They love that. So like, I love working with people online, but it's funny. I feel like, if coming to the farm, they also get to snuggle lambs when they come to see me.
They get the whole experience. So I'm jealous I'm too far away. Otherwise I'd be there too. Believe you me, I would definitely be there. But it's true, they're getting that whole experience. So who would not want to go there? They would forego online to, let me come down to you.
I know. Yeah, it's really, really lovely though. And then, I wanted, like, my house is, there's just so much love that went into building this house. And I love seeing clients in my house. And it's really, really wonderful. And I love sitting with people in person. That's really, if I had a choice, that's my thing.
That's your preference. Yeah.
Definitely.
But people can contact you, even though, I'd like to leave the information because I'm sure someone's going to ask me, and they can't all be local to you.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
They're going to want to know how to contact you. So I want to leave all the information in the description for them to be able to contact you. But I know what you're saying. It is very personal when they're there. And of course, they're getting a wonderful experience coming there. So I can see how they all want to come there and be able to be in that company. And of course, with the sheep and everything, that's just wonderful.
And I will say though, so I do a lot. So I do general kind of readings with people. I also do a lot of past life regression work. That's like a lot of what I do with clients is past life regression. A lot of people are, a lot of times people will have a pattern that comes up in their life.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, a lot of different patterns. And so those are more of a guided session. And I do actually, the majority of those I do on the phone or long distance, because you can be as comfortable as you can. And it's just, you're just going in and I'm guiding you. So those ones I usually suggest to be over the phone. So yeah, but that's really fun stuff. And belief tracking as well. I love doing belief tracking work with people. So same thing, a lot of different patterns that people are involved with in their life that they might not be conscious about, and connecting like where you basically learned something about yourself that's making you kind of choose something over and over and over again.
And of course they repeat, as you know.
Yeah.
With the past life regression, they repeat in many lives. And it seems it's always, no matter what it is, it's always the same pattern that repeats itself.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing that I will say about that work is that generally when somebody is at the point when they're saying, I want to sit with you and I want to look at this, it's already started like moving. So it's like, but by the time, and I love seeing that because people are like, okay, I'm ready to work on this. And it's like, they've already, by saying that, they've already given it permission to let that energy move out. They're saying,
because if you can't articulate that, you're not ready.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's, and a lot of this work is really, and it's all energetic, and, it's about giving yourself permission to choose something different.
Right. Exactly.
And a lot of times people, they say, oh, I don't, it's like, no. You have to, what are you drawn to? What are you holding on to that you don't need anymore? And, what do you want to cultivate? And, you have to give yourself permission to let stuff go and to also, say, this is what I want instead. And it's, when people start doing that, that's when stuff starts changing, faster than you know it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to give yourself permission, because if you don't, you're going to stay in the same patterns.
Exactly.
You're not and you're not even conscious that there are other patterns. You're certainly not accepting of them, accepting of the change.
Exactly.
It's so true. And how about the dancing? How about the are you going to continue to do dancing with individuals as far as your original work? Because I know we had talked about this before with belly dancing. There are many individuals that teach belly dancing per se, that they'll set up a class for belly dancing, but you do so much more. Your teaching is more of intuitive learning about what you feel in your body. And of course, that too has to be kind of in person, right? That has to be it can be done online, but it's more difficult, right?
Yeah.
So, that you're also going to be continuing with?
Oh, absolutely. I've actually been doing that. I mean, now within the last year, so much more. It basically has opened up a lot. And it's interesting because also like going from the pandemic where people, had been more or less like sedentary and they they're holding, a lot of people have been holding a lot of stagnant energy in their body. And now people are just like, I need to move this out. Like I can't do this. And so there's a lot of energy that needs to move physically for people. And so that is actually, there's been a lot of need for that recently within the past year. And I definitely, I plan to still be doing that. I mean, I think that's just, that's energy that people need in their lives. That's energy that I need in my life, no matter what. And I will say that performance is always going to be something that I've been a performer my whole life, and that's, never, I don't think that's ever going to change for me. If anything, I feel like it's funny. I did this one show, I think it was a couple months ago in town, and I was really nervous, and I was like, oh man, I hadn't really done a ton of performances, obviously since COVID and since Lyme disease. And I was like, can I do this again? Like, can I, I haven't been up in front of people. And I danced to kind of whatever I really want to dance to. But, I hear a song and I'm like, oh, that speaks to something in here. Like I feel it a lot of times in my solar plexus, and I feel it in my spine. And then, and I don't choreograph anything ever. I say, okay, that song says something very specific to me. I'll listen to it once and then not again until I perform to it.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Like I won't, because I want.
It is very intuitive dance.
Yeah. So the second it comes on, I am just there. I'm not thinking of anything. I'm not being like, okay, and then the music's going to do this. It is there. It is
just do it
in that moment. And, I danced to an operatic piece. And actually, I think somebody did take a video of it, and I think it's on my Facebook page. That song, I just was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I was just, and I really feel like, again, the experience with Lyme disease, just like, it just put me so back into my body that I can't think beyond, and I can't think back, in the past. I'm just there. I'm in the exact moment.
Right in the moment.
Yeah.
Life is happening here.
Exactly. And
the dogs are barking, life is happening here. But that's it. So it has to be, that's exactly how it is, right? It's in the moment.
Exactly.
It's absolutely in the moment.
Exactly.
I mean, and especially when somebody has had something life-changing like you did, because how serious is that? I say not diagnosed for so long and 3 different types, that's frightening. But now, do you have a list of your performances? Like, do you publish that? Do you have that on a website where you're going to perform? How
I usually do. I'm usually the problem is the farming has basically gotten me all right, you have to, your performance is coming up, you have to actually say something about it. I'm horrible at doing that because I'm just hanging out with sheep. Right. So I should definitely put more out about it beforehand. I'm terrible at doing that. But I will put it up.
So now, do you have a website for that, or you have a website? So you're going to you'll add the performances on the website so people can actually see where they're located. Well, hopefully you'll be able to travel more, especially if there's going to be people that can help with the animals.
Absolutely.
That you can travel more and go to different areas to perform.
Absolutely.
I know I've seen the performances that have been videotaped for you, so I have seen them before. But it's nothing like being live where you're at. So hopefully if you're traveling around that I can get there and
I'd love
see it in
so
purpose.
much.
It would be wonderful. Yeah. I
would
want to
love
thank you so much for coming on today. It's so wonderful to talk about all of this. Especially everything that you're doing, the animals, the tiny home, everything, the dance, all that you're helping everybody with. I think it's fabulous. As I said, I want to thank you for coming and talking to the audience today, Pia. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure here, and I will speak with you soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye now.
Bye.